was born in 1920 in Gallipolis, Ohio. I have an identical twin, and I am 15 minutes older than she. My grandfather had slave owners, and when they were freed, their owners gave all of their slaves and the funds to get started in the New World. Grandfather was able to buy a piece of property, build a business on it, and he used that business for a voting booth for the people in our end of the town every year. And I remember looking through the cracks as a girl and seeing these people go in and pull this curtain behind them. And I said, when I grow up, I'm going to do that. I have never missed a vote in my life. And I don't intend to, because people have died for that right. All over the world, they have died for that right. My twin sister Mildred and I arrived in Cincinnati in the fall of '38. We had just graduated from Gallia Academy High School in Gallipolis as co-valedictorians of our class. Even as students then at UC, we were not allowed to sleep on the campus. Ever heard of a sundown town? We had one in Gallipolis. It was a town that you had to be out of before dark if you were black. In 1970, we still had 10,000 sundown towns in the United States, warning blacks to leave before sundown. What are our gated communities for today? Are they sort of current sundown? Sundown towns? I don't know. Many social limitations were put on black students at UC. My husband organized a group called Quadres, which helped students with their studying, which helped them with integrating into the programs at the university. He organized the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. I came here in 1938 to go to the University of Cincinnati. I married 2 years later, 1940. My boys had looked on TV and seen ride, swim, sing, and dance at Coney Island. And they said to me, "Mother, may we go?" I said, "I don't know, but I'll find out." So I went to the kitchen and closed the door. I didn't know what the conversation might entail, and I didn't want them to hear anything negative. And I picked up the phone and I said to this girl, "Tell me, is Coney Island open to all children?" "Oh," she said, "yes, indeed." And then I said, "Well, we are Negroes," which was the term that we used, and I want to make certain that they can go without embarrassment. And there was a long quiet on the other end of the phone, and this young woman said to me, "No, they can't come." But then she quickly said, "But I don't make the rules." And I said, "I know you don't, honey, but I'm going to find out who does." And there began my battle. I was on NAACP board at the time, and I went and I told them, I think we've got to do something about Coney Island's admittance policy. And I called every black lawyer in town, young and old, and they all came. I had with me the Mr. Attorney Carter from the national office, and he explained to them the process by which we could set up the case. He said, have black, white, black, white, black, white coming together. And he said the whites will be admitted for a dime, and the blacks will be refused for the same dime. And that was all was required. And it took me several days to get that group of people together. Maybe I called 100 to get 25. We went every day for 5 days. When we got to court with the case, it was very interesting. I had both my boys in the courtroom because I told them they were little. They were like 6 and 8, 9, and I was wanting them to know that all the things we wanted were not available, but that we had to go to court sometimes to make them available. And they wanted to go to Coney Island, and I wanted to open Coney Island so they could go, and any other young black child who wanted to go. It was really interesting because in the courtroom, the owner and the director were both there, and Edward, who was only six, walked up to the head of Coney Island, and he said, "You don't look so bad to me." Well, you know, everything that we had done was worth his saying that, because he couldn't think how a man who looked nice could keep him out of Coney Island. It was very interesting because once we got the judge's decision, we could go, but pool wasn't open because it was in another county. And it took them a repeat performance, so to speak, of people in the next group of the NAACP to get that pool opened, simply because it geographically lay in another county. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. The owners were chagrined, but there was nothing they could do about it. And we won our case.
And for her to take her two little boys out to Coney Island, subject them to the harm and the risks that they were subjected to, was an act of courage. And this community, when I go out to Coney Island, I see everyone out there playing and swimming and using all of the facilities with such joy. They have no idea how they got there. So I'm one of those who always salutes Marian.
I fought a lot of cases in Cincinnati. I see judges here who were before me. I see lawyers who helped ask my husband and me was we would participate. We always said yes. Donald was never going to be a principal in the Cincinnati public school system because his wife was Marian Spencer. and we would sort of battle when things came up. And when we were asked to participate in the battle, the court battles, we initiated some, but then we also were invited to some. Fellowship House. Harriet Rowell was the one who brought Margie Penny here from Philadelphia, and she spoke to the Women's City Club and told us she'd like to see us establish a fellowship house. So we started in houses, and we met in churches, and we had singing groups.
And they had what they called trios, which was a black person, a white person, and a Jew. And they would go out and talk to any group that wanted. They were on the city library's speakers list.
We had 2,000 members at one time. We had 60 trio talking groups. Some were high school students, but most were adults, male and female.
And they would go speak to any group about the common things that they had. Commonality in religion, commonality in organizations and structures, and how they cared about their children, and how it was important that they all live in safe neighborhoods.
We went out and spoke about our own individual backgrounds. And I'll give you an example. Harriet Rowell told about not being able to go to the hospitals around. That's why Jewish Hospital was developed. I had a lady there who was from the South whose husband had opened his businesses to blacks and it had been previously closed. And she said, I came from Atlanta. She said, I saw no blacks in my neighborhood. I saw no blacks in my school. I saw no blacks in my social life or my religious life. I didn't miss blacks. And that's what she would say, you know, in the trio talks. And Fellowship House allowed people to speak to the problem. I think that the thing I'm most proud of is that I sought those organizations in the community that wanted to make change to participate in. Cincinnati always voted for PR. They voted with the Women's City Club. Proportional representation was a weighted system that allowed you to vote numerically, 1 to 9. You had to have a weighting of the voting in order to give minorities an opportunity to elect anybody. And they got rid of it in a summer vote. People were out of town, and it was inversely worded. You had to vote no to mean yes. It took them 5 times to get rid of it. And I battled it each time that it came up. In this 12-minute show, I would like to share to all of us that we have a wonderful country, and we've got to keep fighting to keep it moving in the right direction. And it's not to move on a dollar basis. It should move on a morality basis. What's right in a democratic society? And what do we do to keep the doors open for everybody? And people who have come to this country seek a freedom that they have not found more times than not in their own countries. We've got to keep these doors open.
I never knew until now that life could ever be so grand. I was like a doubting Thomas. Love seemed just an empty promise. I never knew until now.